and welcome back to Unmuted by GosuGamers, a podcast that takes a closer look at the esports world. And in every episode, the crews will be diving into the biggest news, hot topics, or even tough issues in the competitive gaming industry. My name is Freddie. I'm here today with Jared, Will, as well as Christy. How are you? How are you? Is it still hot in where you are right now? Yeah.
It's still
Not
freaking
hot here
hot.
anymore.
It's still freaking hot in Malaysia. I can't deal with it. Oh,
I mean, summer weather and all. But how about you, Christy? Yeah.
It is still hot. I think they said Italy the other day was 48 Celsius, and that's a record for all of Europe.
damn.
And although that is hotter than we had, we weren't that, but it just kind of shows that the direction of that Europe is headed and what we've been experiencing here. It's just really unreal. I mean,
what are we
nothing-
gonna do, to help like global warming? Can we crowdfund, some money?
Crowdfund it.
crowdfund. Well, I mean, maybe if, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos decided not to ruin space and actually fix the planet instead that we're on,
Shots fired.
we could do something.
Shots fired.
Yeah. Having said that, yes, today we are going to talk about crowdfunding or like esports and crowdfunding in particular. Like how does this practice or like approach of getting funds from the public, from the open to crowdsourcing help the industry or not? Okay. So let's just quickly touch on some personal experience. Have any of you guys like been involved in crowdfunding, or have you crowdfunded something?
Have I?
I think we've all contributed if we've bought the battle pass
Battle
or
pass.
a compendium.
In that sense,
yes.
yes.
Or even
Yeah.
a compendium from like BTS back in the time or things like that. I mean, I think most of us here would not be able to say we haven't contributed in some way, shape, or form, especially considering, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that Valve introduced crowdfunding as a way to fund tournament events back for TI3. I think that was probably the first that we saw something in terms of a prize pool or in terms of tournaments go. And we've seen multiple tournaments, BTS. I mean, I think even these like, I don't know if it was Moonduck at the time, but when we see all of the kind of unique tournaments where they have, you can buy X, Y, and Z and be able to get your name in here or contribute towards something in game, that's all kind of the same animal. And I think it would be hard pressed to find anyone, at least on the Dota end, that hasn't contributed in some form then.
Well, I mean, I know some players who never spend a dime on Dota. Yeah. Not me.
No, you don't. They
I
don't
have-
exist.
I bought a couple of like
They're
battle
not
pass
real.
before. But yeah, Jared, you mentioned something about StarCraft earlier.
Yes. So it a while back, it started. I think it came from Blizzard straight off the bat with I think it was called a war chest, I believe. And basically, you purchased it and you got some items from it, but the funds from it, I think it was 25% of the funds, went directly to the prize pools. And I mean, for StarCraft 2, as great as a game it is, RTS as a genre was dying away. So the prize pools were very low. Like, I say very low. $200,000 is still pretty big for me, at least.
What year are you talking about? Like approximately, you think?
Probably 2015 or so. It was like
Okay,
the middle
so
of
still
StarCraft
after-
2's.
After
Oh, yeah, after.
Valve. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. There was
I was
also
thinking Valve stole something else
Nah.
and claimed it for their own. So I was
I think
ready to
fight.
yeah.
There was also like I think
Just about to go all
before Blizzard actually did that, there was, or maybe it was after, I think around 2014, there was actually a StarCraft 2 player who realized that that the game was in itself dying away on a fan basis. Like, it went from being highly watched to like 10,000 viewers. And this player actually did what, slacks of them do, where he crowdfunded a tournament by, arranging all the aspects of the tournament he would need, and then started I think it was an Indiegogo, and basically it wasn't that much to arrange a tournament. I think it was like $5,500 or something, and in the end he made about $6,000, and then put the work into making the tournament, which then only got to like 30,000 views. But I mean, it was essentially a crowdfunded tournament, and it did save the life of StarCraft 2 for a short while, maybe. But as I said, RTS gaming just kind of died away.
Yeah, Will, what's your thought in like crowdfunding and contributing it to prize pool? I mean, I'm sure like a lot of us here have that like contributed that, like what Christian mentioned. But what's your personal thought about it? Is that
I think it's great.
something that's good, or like but if it's good, how come not every esport titles are doing that?
Okay, I can't speak for other esports titles, but I can speak from a fan personally. I think it's great because everybody wants to be involved. Like I personally contributed, I think, a healthy amount of cash to like previous Dota 2 battle passes. And every
Wait.
time
I think your definition of healthy, though, from what I remember, was like a car's worth or something like that for
Oh,
the
wow.
previous
Close to it,
podcast.
close to it.
Yeah.
For Gabe,
close to it,
Healthy.
yes.
our Lord Gaben.
Healthy, yes. But yeah, like I took personal pride in seeing the prize pool numbers going up, and I'm like, I did that. The sad part is I never got to attend any of it. But overall, I thought it made me I enjoyed it personally because I love the fact that everyone could contribute, everyone could feel a part of the tournament. Like, even though you couldn't really be there, like the cash that you put in goes into funding for the tournament itself, like in terms of logistics, in terms of management, in terms of the UIs that you see during pre-matches, post-matches, things like that. Like, if I'm not mistaken, from what I read a couple of years ago, like if you were to not crowdfund, if you were to get a battle pass, and I think 20 or 25% goes to prize pool, and then a certain amount goes towards funding for the tournament itself, like organizing and all that. So I like the fact that every year the tournaments get even better because of the amount of money that keeps on getting generated, and they actually put it to good use instead of it going to other people's pockets. So yeah, I like it. I'm a fan.
I think the main point here is that for longest time, a lot of this crowdfunding is started or initiated by the game dev, or if not, like the tournament organizers, right? But in only in recent years, we see more and more organizations like esports teams or whatsoever, they're taking this route as well. Maybe just to have the extra cash or extra funding to support them for we have heard recently with Undying, and as well as like I think there are a couple of teams as well in various games that they needed that financial help, and then they will go to like Indiegogo or Kickstarter or any sort of like crowdfunding platform for that. But I'm just very curious because how come crowdfunding, something like that, is so common in gaming, right? In when I say gaming, I meant like from the game dev point of view, from like starting an indie project or whatever, or even like for a guild, even to form a website or something, or to build some sort of like codes or whatever. But when it comes to esport teams, it's only being picked up recently. Is it a stigma? Is it what's the factor there that stops them from picking this up sooner? What do you guys think?
I think from the esport team point of view, it might come down to something like a sponsorship deal. So they have sponsorship deals and things like that. So maybe in that there's something that maybe doesn't stop them from doing it, but dissuades them from wanting to go that route. And that extra money, then people might start to dislike the teams because they're saying, oh well, the team isn't actually performing or they're not doing well, so why would we want to give them money or something like that.
How is what is it, like about 2 years ago Fnatic secured like $10 million or something like that from crowdfunding, and everybody who contributed became like kind of like a part owner or a shareholder, I guess. It's interesting because I know it existed and I know it happened, but I don't know anything else about it, like in terms of the follow-up or I mean, is it still happening? What is happening? How do people feel about it? Like, I feel like
And what do you
for
get out of
something
it,
as
right?
unique and so big, it's kind of very silent. And
I remember seeing that 2 years ago around that time. It felt
Yeah.
like an investment plan, right? It's kind of like invest in
Right.
Fnatic, something like be
you got
part of
like
us.
annual
Ah.
or biannual reports on the company, things like that. I remember. But what now? And I mean, Fnatic has other sponsorships. Fnatic has other, sources of income, obviously, so what did 10 million get the team and the fans outside of what the regular Fnatic sponsorship and things like that got to? And how do the fans that contributed, we should do a thing, contact some of them and do a follow-up on that, because I don't know what they're getting now out of it, or how they feel about it, or did it even matter? I mean, Fnatic already, Undying, for example, had nothing, and they were seeking to be able to specifically go to boot camp, to be able to compete in TI on the same kind of competitive level that other teams that have sponsors and organizations are able to. But what did Fnatic take from that 10 million, that they didn't already have access to? And did it propel them forward in the competitive scene and stuff? It's curious. And I think it's the biggest that we would see. I mean, 10 million, we're not talking about 10,000 or something, we're talking about millions. So I think this is a pretty significant occurrence with quite a lot of silence around it.
Yeah, you can buy like 1,000 cars with 10 million. But yeah, I agree with you, Christy. Like, that could be something that we can approach Fnatic, or even some of the contributors, and see what have they done, right? For maybe they have actually kept everything pretty informative. They are all in like a, I don't know, monthly newsletter, kind of like a shareholder report kind of thing. They will like provide them roadmap. I don't know. Because like I'm not part of that campaign or like that contribution, but seriously, I would expect that, right? If I'm, you're asking me to like chip in, I don't know, $50 or 100 or whatever, depending on the levels that you are contributing, I would expect that kind of information and reports, or like, telling me how are you going to spend this 10 million. Would it be that,
Well, it's kind of
using this to
like,
expand into
if I gave
different
you
titles? Yeah.
If I gave you $5, do I get a say in it? And like, how much was it? I'm curious, because like, I mean, how many 13-year-olds had access to their mom's wallet? And then they get to say what they want,
Okay, maybe they won't get a
Content or
say, but at least they will get like a report card, kind of, like a like a newsletter, like, hi, we're doing well thanks to you, something along that line. Yeah, like a Christmas card, or I don't know. What's your take on this, Jared? Yeah.
On that note, like the whole it's very silent kind of things. Let's look at a crowdfunder that's way above that, which is Star Citizen, and that's going back to 2011. Star Citizen crowdfunded over $350 million.
Yeah.
And what has anyone seen from that game? In
that trailer,
10 years.
That one trailer,
that one
which
trailer looked absolutely amazing, and then nothing else. Like, apparently some of the crowdfunders got to like test a few things here and there, like little modules of the game, but $350 million, and where's any?
They're going to the moon.
Basically, they are, and well, if they're not there yet, well, I'm sorry, guys, but you need to refund people. And I know they have been, but that's one of those things where there's just been a lot of silence around a massive crowdfunder, and no one's really investigating it, I guess. It's the same like with the Fnatic thing, as you said. If you just get a bi-monthly or a bi-yearly thing to say, hey, this is where your money's gone, is that enough? Are you getting anything else?
I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of depends on the mentality of the giver, right? Like what do you expect out of it? Like, if you expect to be part of the shareholder, of course you're not gonna be, even though they shape it like that, right? Like, invest in Fnatic. But but if your intent is really literally to help, it kind of like, I wouldn't say akin to charity, definitely not, but it felt you are just contributing a part of a donation, or part of like a cash to them. and you trust that this organization or will utilize it, and make sure that they improve the welfare of the team or whatsoever, or they will do good stuff with it. So it's that kind of trust as well. But at the same time, I'm also very skeptical about things like this. Yeah.
Well, that then brings up the point of the difference between, say, donation versus stretch goals and, various kinds of campaigns that you have where you'll get something in return. And
Correct.
which one are you more inclined to? Which one is better or not better? When Slacks did his TI4 crowdfunding, to go to TI4, he, had specific, this is the content that's going to be done, this is what I'm going to be doing. People that donated to it, although they didn't specifically and personally get something in terms of that content wasn't just for them, it was for everyone, there was still something that people maybe felt like they were getting out of it versus, say, maybe a donation. And then also versus, if you do, say, example, things like Patreon or even in Indigo, you still get something personal, a t-shirt or a thank you note or something like that. And so, battle passes, you're getting the battle pass specifically, things like this. So, there's kind of a range. And what would you be willing to, do you always want something in return, or are you willing to just kind of support, like Undying had to remove their campaign and then put it back up because they couldn't have stretch goals on the GoFundMe. So now anybody who's donating to Undying, it's literally donation then. You're donating and you're doing it from the goodness of your heart because you believe in wanting to be able to see them be able to compete at the highest level, and you trust they're going to use that in the way that they say, versus, having a share or a stake in things or getting something out of it.
I mean, from that point of view, I guess, isn't it better to then use, I know, obviously, like you said, from the goodness of your own heart, sure, a donation's fine, but generally people are going to want something in return. And so maybe it's better than to go with something like Kickstarter or whatever, where you can have stretch goals. I mean, I know for a lot of board games, so board games are one thing that I'm happy to put money into because generally they're actually amazing. I've done it for Gloomhaven and more recently for Ouroboros, which is coming out sometime in the next few years. But yeah, for those, I mean, for Gloomhaven, just for $20, you got like every single miniature of the game, like hand printed, stuff like that. That was just for $20. That was like a very small goal, considering that the game costs like $100. But like I want to say that having an incentive is better. With gaming at least. Not many people are gonna go ahead and give a team $1,000 just to be like, haha, here we go. You guys do it. Go to TI, have fun.
Yeah.
Good luck,
You got
guys.
this.
Someone, like, most people are gonna want something in return, even if it's a t-shirt that's signed by the players.
Jersey,
That's
or like
cool.
some exclusive
Awesome.
content on the Patreon, or like something that you like they get a personal message. I don't know, something along.
But what about
Just want
streamers? I mean,
ROI.
streamers. People donate constantly to streamers or do stretch goals that are things like to upgrade my PC or to get a new camera or something like that. And streamers are constantly, I mean, if you're a good streamer, are constantly getting enough either, equipment and funds, or people will donate flat out, here's your new PC, or something, or even just donations on a basis, normal basis. I mean, you have, of course, those where you can do the voice to text or things like that, and people like to give the $1 so it goes on the screen and all that kind of stuff, and they can, nickel and dime it all the way up to a few thousand every day. But for the most part, it's not different than people that are donating to streamers. So what drives this kind of behavior in esports and in gaming that we're so willing to throw our money at these various people, these various teams, these various things versus, I mean, maybe any other industry?
I have a response to that in regards to streamers, because like whenever you, let's say, subscribe to somebody or like donation or whatsoever, the accreditation is instantaneous. You straight away see like something pop up. Oh, someone, Jared just sub for 15 months. Blah, blah, blah. Then you get like, all the emojis, you get everything that, you are supposed to get with your rank and everything. And at the same time, you also get the service, right? I mean, which is technically the streaming program that this person has been doing for years. So like, and usually for streamers to be popular or like, they need to really dedicate their life into it. Like literally, I'm like
right,
7 to 8
okay.
hours.
Let's look at like Shroud.
Mhm.
Okay, if you
Yep.
were to donate on his channel, there are so many donations, so many chat things, and so many of these things going on that the quick flash on the screen may or may not even happen if someone else did it at the same time as you. He may or may not, usually not, even acknowledge these things or say it out loud or say it back on the stream and things like that. Like, and this is someone who, and he's very nice. I don't mean that, I mean, he's a very, I'm going to say a very wholesome kind of streamer, and there's a sense of like feel good vibes to the guy and stuff like that, but you're not getting anything personalized. He's not going to stop streaming because you didn't contribute, or something like that. Like, but yet people are still inclined to keep going and keep giving and everything, even more so. His streaming service isn't going to stop. His equipment is already kind of top notch. You're not getting, you're getting some emois or something, but you're not getting any kind of personalization or, oh, now we're kind of buddies because you have a small community and we can chat and things like that, and you'll thank me or I get attention from you for this, I mean,
they
so
kind
there
of
is
have that.
still,
I mean, in a sense, the tribalism is still there, right? Like I'm part of the Shroud army.
Yeah.
I'm a subscriber. You have like, that crown little thing, like people take pride in that. Yeah.
And I think
when
people just want to be noticed a lot of the times.
Correct.
They want their
Yeah.
names or their tags to appear up on, like, let's say, Shroud stream. And everyone will try to be funny with it, especially the voice to text kind of thing. Like people will try to put on jokes and shit like that, just try to be funny
blah,
to
blah,
get their
blah,
15
blah,
minutes
blah,
of
blah,
fame.
blah. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Bulldog.
Yeah, all those kind of things. So like people
Yeah.
just want their 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Yeah.
the times, like, even if, let's say, your message doesn't get called out, people will still keep donating because there's hope in it. And to quote a show that I'm currently binging, which is Ted Lasso, and there's a key line, it's called, "It's the hope that kills you." So yeah, but we still do it.
Yeah.
I've done it.
And the whole Twitch incentive, right, is very similar to, in a way, Battle Pass, right? Or like Compendium. Like, you show the levels and everything. Like, of course, you want to be the guy with like the high Battle Pass, and you're able to like afford to tip somebody and that kind of thing. You just flex, right? In a way.
So that's based on flexing, but things like Battle Pass, I mean, I'm actually getting to utilize skins or access to things in the game and everything. Yeah, which is maybe a little bit different. Or Genshin Impact. I have
like a different ball game altogether.
No, nobody even sees this. This is just me. but you do get these kinds of things or whatever. Again, you mentioned something about tribalism, and that's an interesting thing. So so now we're talking about there's a tribalism part, which I think you're right. Everybody wants that crown. Everybody likes to have that identity. Everybody likes to say, I'm a subscriber of X, Y, and Z, and now I can use this on my Discord channel, and everybody there sees I am too, or something, and then you have, what do I get out of it? Where's my incentive in terms of the tangible things and stuff like that too? So there's probably like a mix of the two different ones going on. But again, it goes back to, so what is a team like Undying getting from it, that they're able to provide? You're not necessarily going to have a tribalism because nobody's going to see or care that you gave it to Undying, because you don't have a badge that goes with doing that. You're not getting anything tangible, a t-shirt, GosuGamers t-shirts.
It's coming.
Soon, TM.
I promise.
I've been hearing this for ages.
Trust me, bro.
but you get something tangible, or even at least Battle Pass, something in the game. At the summit from the compendiums, you got things, as well. So, okay, I can appeal to tribalism. I can appeal to tangible things. Where does the one that's strictly donation come into, and how effective is that then? Or again, the Fnatic thing, if I'm only getting a newsletter, that's not exactly something tangible or something either, or a badge of honor that anybody sees either. So it's still, again, more along those lines of the donation thing again.
I guess, I mean, that comes down to like individual like strategy and tactics, right? I mean, when you talk about crowdfunding, it is a campaign, like it or not, right? Whether like you have a campaign that offer more incentives or literally just good luck, thank you, thank you, no, whatever. Like, it's really up to whoever that is organizing the crowdfunding campaign to strategize. So I feel like for the case of Undying and versus, or even like maybe something like Fnatic, yeah, it's really up to them to lay out the incentives. And if at that point of time, whoever that is like interested and like agreed to like give the money, then yeah, they've obviously see that value or like the exchange, right? Literally that exchange that, okay, I'm willing to give you this, even if I only gonna get back nothing. That's fine by me. So I think in a way, it's really up to individuals. And hence, you can also say that, to a certain extent, like when you have a campaign that doesn't give you as much incentive, chances are they won't get much in return as well. Chances are, yeah, because it's the perception. What do you get back?
I mean, on that note, like, so the StarCraft 2 and the guy who did it, I remember some of his incentives were literally like, if you put in $10, you get a hug from me. Like, small things like that. That's that whole what World brought up, that 15 minutes of fame. You get to meet the guy. You get to get a hug from this pro player. Awesome. Or like, for the higher amounts, it was like personal StarCraft 2 training from him. Again, that's, I get to play with this professional player. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, things like that would be really cool for the like things like Undying, if they just went and like, if you're at TI and you've put money into this, cool, we can arrange like a meet and greet, just
Yeah.
say hi, how you doing?
Or like a
Thank you so
scrim.
much. Yeah, like have a scrim. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the Undying team versus 5 people who gave them money. That's a
Like the
great
top
option
5
too.
donators.
Yeah, or even like a social
Yeah,
media shout on their last Instagram
yeah,
story or
Yeah.
something.
Still,
Or
that
like,
would be awesome.
Like, we just want ROI.
yeah, no, we just want to be included. We
Yeah.
just want to be part of their life too, if possible. If possible.
If any at all.
Yeah.
Ah,
Okay. With that, I think let's talk about like something that's a little bit bigger in terms of like bigger picture. So let's take 2 steps back. So we will talk about like crowdfunding, but at the same time, Jared, you mentioned earlier as well that there are teams that already have sponsors and all. They have all sort of different sources in terms of like revenue and everything. So obviously, it's gonna be a little bit tricky, or if do they even need to go down that route of crowdfunding? So now we're gonna talk about the reality of funding esports, right? Because I feel like that's kind of the root cause of all things. Like, obviously, you will only need help when you need help. You will only go now crowdfunding. But the thing is, based on my observation, I feel like Fnatic is actually trying, experimenting, testing the water, right? In the sense that they felt, yeah, they may not need the money, but they felt like crowdfunding is not so much of sometimes just getting the money or the funds, but also it's a very good engagement practice. It's a very good outreach program. Don't you think? Yeah.
never thought of it that way.
What's your thought in that? Yeah, I feel like it could be something for other esports organization to even pick this up, because to a certain extent, some gaming like game publishers or developers or even content creators, they do that. They don't need the money, but they need the community. They want to give out more or whatever, and then they want working on certain project. If they can get some sort of funds to offset that cost, would be better. But at the same time, they're also finding ways to engage.
Well, that probably increases a sense of loyalty, which is, I think, a thing that is often, I think that's the bottom line. That's what we want to go towards, because loyalty is going to keep driving month on month on month. Let's look at OG, okay? OG has quite a loyal fan base, but in recent times, they've kind of strayed a little bit from their old philosophy of friendship and flowers and stuff, and things have gotten a little bit more spicy, a little bit more controversial in some of their approach and some of their presentation, there was a lot of talk around when they started releasing the NFT path. And I think that when you're looking at it that way, you know, it's creating engagement, sure, but they are taking a chance and threatening some of that loyalty now. And I think, at least I know in a lot of circles I've seen, is there's a lot of negativity and decrease in that loyalty over the past couple of months and everything. So sometimes it's not always just best to be trying to get the engagement. It's how you're doing it in order to get the loyalty. And NFTs are another way that I think people, like organizations and teams, are starting to kind of, in a sense, crowdfund, because they're getting, you know, all this kind of, you invest into it, but you're only getting something small out of it, or a chance, kind of like loot boxes, you know, to get something. And then where is the rest of that money going? It's a profit thing. It is being designed and done towards increasing the bottom line and the profits and everything. And there's a lot in the community that aren't happy with it, especially because NFTs are directly something that affects gamers, if you think about it, you know, with the whole mining and I know Sharil's going to be working on a piece talking about, you know, the shortage of GPUs and things like that, you know, graphics cards. So maybe not the best way to engage, because people will start getting upset about what exactly it is they're getting out of it. What's the incentive or not incentive? Or so crowdfunding or doing these different campaigns for engagement can be great in loyalty, but it can also backfire, I think, tremendously. And it's something to be really careful about.
Yeah. It's good that you brought up the whole NFT, right? I want to ask, is it safe to assume that NFT is the new crowdfunding option? It feels like a lot of not just organizations like OG, but also you're talking about
Alliance just did as well, I believe.
We Play, and there's a couple of game publishers as well. They're doing that as well. NFT, is that the new way of sugarcoating crowdfunding? Because technically you're right. It's kind of like very loot boxy. Is something intangible that may or may not have value down the line.
Yeah, I think you're definitely going the right direction of saying that NFTs are the new crowdfunding. I don't know how many people will actually put money into NFTs, though. That's the thing. At least from my point of view, I think that NFTs feel a lot worse than loot boxes somehow, where, in a loot box, you're gonna get something. With an NFT, it's kind of like, Bitcoin. It could be worth $1,000 today.
With an NFT, you're gonna
nothing.
get that you ruined the environment. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
There
we go. Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, with loot boxes, at the very least, you're getting something, right? Whether is it a skin that you will use or not.
Yeah, you're getting something. With NFT, you might literally just get absolutely nothing at all. It's like buying an artifact card.
Please don't mention artifact. It's so hurtful.
Are we trying to outrage Slacks today?
Every time you mention artifact, a bit, like part of my soul just like screams.
Gone. Like, that's the thing. An NFT literally feels like it is worth absolutely nothing, and who knows? Maybe you end up getting something like a Dragon Lore Kenny S Orb kind of thing, and it's worth a ton, and you have it in your collection now, and 10 years down the line, you can look at it and go, well, I have that, awesome. But it's not as tangible as having that orb in your CSGO collection.
Yeah. I think it's still a little bit difficult to evaluate the value or the appeal of an NFT, right? It is working in some industry. I know for a fact that like NBA, they have this NBA Top Shot, which is NFT, and it's doing really well. There are a lot of fans that are collecting it. But at the same time, like sports, traditional sports, there's also like these collectibles that are really something that is very big. People collect cards, they collect like all these memorabilia and stuff like that. So yeah, it's part of the culture and it's right for them. But for gamers, we collect things too, but we collect things that we can use or flex if possible.
Yeah.
In the game, not outside the game. So that's my 2 cents. But Will, what's your thought on like NFT?
Uh, I don't know, to be
Worth to
honest. For
spend
me,
like a
honestly,
amount
for
close
me,
to
I
a
would
car?
say like, oh, definitely not. Yeah, nah. Like, I'm not even confident in NFT myself to even want to invest in it, to be honest, because it's still pretty fresh and there's still a lot of gray areas about it. So yeah, I'm definitely not touching it until like, not yet at least. I'll give it a couple of months. Maybe do some more studying, some more research. But yeah. But as of right now, I'm really not a fan.
Now, go back to the whole Fnatic movement, right? I feel like it's great that they did that, and because I think that's also signaling the new wave that is the tone is changing. For longest time, whenever you do something like a crowdfunding, it means that you're in dire need of cash or funds. But for them, obviously, they weren't in that state, and they were using that as in a way, engagement tools like for loyalty and everything. And it's also something that can coexist with their sponsors, right? The sponsors will be happy if you're doing this in a way, like you're just increasing the exposure. I'm just thinking whether this particular model will have legs more no for other organizations to pick up or not. It has been 2 years. I don't see any other big organizations that picking this up as well. So hence I'm throwing this out here. Do you think this will work, or people will go with NFT, or what? Yeah, what's your thought on this? Yeah.
I think the one thing that maybe not with the Fnatic side of it, but I think especially since the pandemic, where a lot of teams might not have the opportunity to play in tournaments and like earn the money that uh, can help them, even if they have sponsors. Sponsors might be fading away due to the fact that there's no exposure for the teams. Um, it might be a good way if it it brings in that engagement and it does actually help the teams moving forward. The Fnatic one, like we've said, seems a bit weird because where did all of it go? There's a lot of um, I want to say silence around it, but it's just like an unknown basically. So I think for smaller, especially for smaller teams, the teams like Undying, where they don't have the sponsors, this crowdfunding, things like that could really help them to build up and get to a platform or to a stage again where they're able to play in tournaments again, where we're not all on lockdown kind of thing. But I think it could be a good move moving forward, at least.
I don't know much, but I wonder if maybe there's some kind of legality, contractual kind of terms that prevent more people from going into that. So, for example, if you don't deliver X, Y, and Z, or say do what you're going to say, then you have to refund or you have to do something. And I'm just wondering if what some of these things might be in terms of potential barriers or reasons that it might not be so appealing for others to move forward. Because if you have a team, say Undying, and they say we're gonna boot camp, we're gonna get these PCs, and they don't end up delivering, like, do the fans have a way to be able to? Is there a lawsuit involved? Are they responsible for having to refund it, but then they spent some of it already? And how does a team like Undying now come up with that money that they had already spent to be able to refund it? Things like this. It's just something I don't know, but I am sure there's things around it, which is why we're not seeing more. Because obviously, if it was easy money, if it was a way to easily fund various things, there would be at least more than there is now, and we don't see as much. And what's holding it back? There's got to be something. I know. Okay, so GoFundMe wasn't letting them to do stretch goals, but Indiegogo does. Like there's different platforms out there that allow you to do. You can do, say, Patreon if you wanted to do it as like a monthly thing. So there are lots of different approaches or angles or ways that you can do it, and we don't see as much. When Dota had the ability to have compendiums, and every tournament organizer was able to have their own compendium, that was great for them. We saw multiple organizations doing it. You know, the Summit is one of the most prevalent in everybody's minds that had a compendium, but they weren't the only ones. When Valve kind of put an end to that, we saw bits and pieces of tournament organizers trying different ways to be able to, but they didn't seem to really stick. We only see them when it's kind of more of those for fun tournaments that have a very different kind of feel to it, a very casual feel. They're not competitive in the same way that we think of competitive. They're, you know, those things like the bounty hunt, or the ones where you can, you know, change, you know, what is the gameplay or something to that effect. So again, there's a reason why are not more tournaments using some kind of crowdfunding. We know that tournament organizers are usually in dire need of finances, because we often hear from tournament organizers how it's a money pit, how often what they get out of it in terms of the return on investment of especially LAN tournaments, is usually a negative or close to. I mean, I can tell you, you know, several tournament organizers that I've spoken to say that their bank accounts are still reeling from tournaments from several years ago. And you know, VLAT, for example, was always very open and very vocal about that as well when he was with StarLadder and everything. So why are they not using it more? There has to be a reason, you know, that we're missing, that they're not doing more crowdfunding for, say, tournaments, because they're in dire need too. So there's something, you know, and what is that? What is
without the in-game compendium support, like what you mentioned earlier, it's gonna be tough, right? Because like we spoke about incentive, we spoke about all that, so we want something in return if we're gonna like give you the money. So without that, it's gonna be a big loss, and unless they are able to come up with something equivalent, let's say they can send you shirts or whatever. But I don't want shirts. I want shirts in the game.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I
Valve
want
has to say yes to that. Yeah.
I want shirts.
Yeah. So if Valve is
the other side of
like
it-
restricting them from doing this, then obviously it's gonna affect them.
Yeah.
But I
The
do want
other
to bring up
side of
another
it
point.
is,
Yeah,
you
sorry,
know,
Jerry, go ahead first. Yeah.
with the with the Kickstarters and stuff. So I know that there's the one downside is that if you don't reach the original goal, so say you have a week or 2 weeks, 2-week period, and you put up a $5,000 goal, and even if it reaches $4,999 in those 2 weeks, when it ends, you then can't get any of that money. That money then goes to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whoever it is, because that's now basically theirs. So I think, I mean, obviously there's probably like clauses in place somewhere where they can't actually take all that money, but for the most part, if you don't reach your goal, you get none of that. So
does it get held in like a middleman kind of bank account until
I
a
do
certain
get
point?
refunded.
It probably does get refunded. I imagine that the company can't keep that money, surely, and say,
no, but
hey,
what
well,
I mean
it
is
didn't
like,
go to someone.
okay,
you mean
so if your
before,
campaign
like,
is
it goes,
if your campaign is 3 weeks, up until the 3 weeks, you don't have access to the money. It goes into, like, say, this middle account.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
And then I wonder how long it takes for them to send it to you too.
Well, I think
turnaround.
I would
give it another
imagine
couple of
that's
weeks.
where, I imagine that's where they kind of end up making their own money, which is from, you know, amount sitting in their accounts for a 3-week period, gathering the interest, and then you know, they send it out. But I mean, again, I don't know the ins and outs of that. I just know that if you don't reach your goal, you're not getting the money.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the downside. Maybe that's why teams aren't going for it. Maybe they think that, you know, if they set a very low goal and they reach it, then they maybe don't want to set another one 2 weeks later with a high goal, and
And
then they
not reach
don't
it.
reach it. And
Mhm.
yeah, so
Right,
I
right.
guess
I
it
mean, that
comes
would
down
make
to
sense.
just,
Mhm.
yeah, that could be the one downside to things like that.
Mm.
But again, I suppose for tournament organizers, especially in big games, so Dota 2, League of Legends, CSGO, things like that, a lot of the fans will want to see tournaments, and most fans crave tournaments. I mean, I don't miss the days where there are tournaments every week, but I sometimes I do wish there was still tournaments quite often. So, I just wonder if it is a good path for them to try at least.
Okay, now I want to shift the focus back to the teams, right? Like what are the other ways that they can like crowdfund or like yeah get more revenue or income? And one of the initiative that was actually started by Valve this year is a supporters club. In a way, it's a form of crowdfunding, isn't it? And what are your thoughts about Dota 2 supporters club where I think if I'm mistaken, like the teams they have to supply all the artwork themselves, they supply all
They
the
had to
material,
supply
everything.
all of
Yeah.
the material by a
Mm-hmm.
certain deadline. It had certain kind of criteria they had to submit for approval. Valve got to choose, from my understanding also, so for example, you were supposed to have, say, 3 icons or something, right? You had to submit, say, 6, and then Valve chose from that 6 the 3 that they wanted to implement. So you didn't even get to choose the 3 that were in there. You had to choose 6, and of that 6, then 3 were chosen. Things like this. There was deadlines. The issue with this specifically, I think it was a great idea theoretically or idealistically, that didn't pan out right because in true nature of Valve, they don't have anybody that was really dedicated to it. It didn't get implemented the way that they kind of at least presented that it would be. So a lot of them didn't get uploaded, period. A lot of them got uploaded with mistakes. Some of them are still not even uploaded. Part of them were uploaded only partially. The ones that got uploaded were the big teams who didn't necessarily need the support financially, although the fans were happy to have them because that's what they wanted, was say that, the team secret or OG or something like that. But the purpose was supposed to also be to help fund the other teams. And those are the teams that kind of didn't get the priority in everything getting uploaded. And so they're still struggling. And it also is like a 50% again cut from Valve to them. So you're not even getting to contribute to them 100%. I'm giving half of that to Valve to screw it up and do nothing, or maybe not even give it to me, or give it to me right and everything. And it ends. What?
Yeah.
Next week?
You can't
It's
get
over?
it. Yeah.
What?
I think it's over
What?
soon. Or is
What?
it
Soon,
really
next
over?
week.
I think
17th
it's next
is
week.
when-
Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
No, in a way, think about it. From Valve's point of view, it's like they're getting all these teams to do this work for them. Because if you think about it, there are other games that
And the teams had to pay for these things. Like,
yes, they have to
they
make
had to pay
like,
the
find
designers. They had to
designers.
pay, for voice lines potentially, things like that
Yeah.
that people would, to record
No.
or to use. The teams paid for this out of their own pockets,
Correct.
and they're only getting 50%. They weren't even uploaded on time, let alone, maybe correctly for people to be interested enough to be buying them and everything.
Because if you compare this to
nightmare.
like some of the voice lines or emotes that we got last time, they were all done by Valve. And and also in other games, like for example, like Mobile Legends or LOL or whatsoever, like where you have all these in-games emotes that are dedicated to the teams, right? Obviously, there's some deal there. Obviously they have to get the approval, consent from the team, and there's some sort of cutback. Yeah, so there's a way you're getting the fund from the player. The fans, but at the same time you are paying the teams too, and you do all the work because you have to design, blah blah blah. And this the other
Originally,
yeah.
Remember when they did the signature things that you could buy for TI, like the caster signatures and stuff like that? Originally, they weren't paying them for the signatures. It only came around, I think, after, Too Good said something about it. It was only after that they started even paying the people for those signatures. They weren't even getting money off of those signatures, and initially, if I recall right.
what you shouldn't do. This is something that what you should not do. So if you're a game dev, remember this. Okay, it's a good lesson for you. But yeah, I mean, personally, I feel like this supporters club would have, it might be a very good thing. It has the potential to be. That's what I'm trying to say. I felt like when they announced it, before I dig further, deeper to find out about all these nitty-gritty, before we uncover some of it also on our side, I thought it was a good initiative. It was it's an official way for the game to help the teams. Of course, you will have the bigger fishes, the better known teams, they will get more support than the lesser known ones for sure. But at the very least, they will still be able to get something out of it. That was what I thought. But well, or do you think this model
there were
could
some
be refined?
NA teams? Yeah. There was some tier 2 NA teams, Division 2 teams that had quite some funny sprays and voice lines and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That alone, the content specific, was enough to drive people to want to get them. Not that it was necessarily they even cared about, say, that specific team, but it was the content. So it did allow for teams to be much more creative and much more able to have control over getting more support from people versus than they would based off of their fan base of who they were, because they were able to provide something that, potentially people wanted more. So that was a great idea, because if you just said, oh, hey, support your favorite team, and then you have these Division 2 teams that nobody really cares about, not so much, but they had the option and the ability then to add some really top-notch content. And now all of a sudden people are like, well, I'm kind of supporting that team because financially, even if I'm not personally supporting them, because I like that content and everything. And so that, but again, Valve, I mean, I hate to say this. I hate to say it, but I say it an awful lot. So that's, but they're like, constantly why they put their hands in things and then mess it up. I mean, it's even as they did it with this. They put their hands in, oh my gosh, I just totally lost it because I'm like, I hate to say it, but they I'm so frustrated. It's just with it, I'll come back to it and I'll remember, and I'm going to jump in and be like, see, I told you. But again, it's just how they screw everything up with they take away constantly, the ability for everybody to be able to contribute. The compendiums, now this thing that we had with the supporters club, and I am going to round back, I promise, before this episode is done, even if I have to call you all together next week so I can clip it in and put it in the editing, I'm going to remember what it was.
I mean, also with like looking at Valve's bad side of things, maybe it's the wrong time to bring it up. But if you look at the way Overwatch League did something similar, was the skins that they had for the teams, and those were, I think there was $5 to get a skin for a certain character, and I think it was that 50% of that went to the teams and 50% went to the designers of the skins. I think I'm not entirely sure on that part, but why not have a system like that where you actually work with the teams rather than telling the teams, hey, you have to do this.
Jared,
you have to pay.
The point? That is the point. Yes.
There we go.
Tell me, just hold this for me. Hold this for me. The designers and creatives.
Yeah, the creative fee
go
be budget could be factored into the fee. Yeah, into
exactly.
the cut. Yeah,
but Valve seemed to take it too far.
That's it, because they took. That was the thing I wanted to say. They cut out the workshops and stuff too.
Yeah. Yes.
That was another way.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the one that was in my mind.
Yeah, they were so good.
The workshop stuff, and you just reminded me of it exactly when you said about the skins and the money going to the creators and the designers and stuff like that. That was exactly yes. Jared,
didn't Valve used to hold competitions for workshops last time?
Yeah, they used to have design competitions for TI yearly for each tournament. I remember when we used to, there was a lot of hype looking at the all the designs and stuff beforehand, and doing work on like saying which ones have made it through and things like that. It's
good
so
content for us too.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so weird to see that like things like that where it's literally like killing the creative part of people by saying, well, you're not getting anything for this anymore.
Yeah.
So
You gotta take
people are sitting there going,
50%, yeah, and you gotta
why
do
would
everything
we even do
yourself,
this
yeah.
then? Yeah.
But having said that, like I just checked, there's a total of 75 teams that signed up for this. Obviously, they thought that they could have earned something from it, right? And I'm sure some teams do get much more out of it than the rest.
You mean from the
But
supporter
yeah.
club?
Yes, supporter club. 75
That's
teams.
only what's up there. There's
there's a lot more.
Milan's team. I know Milan's team has been complaining tremendously about that their stuff still never got uploaded.
Wow.
And I mean, No Bounty Hunter was talking recently,
Oh, yeah, I
I think,
remember
into
that,
the breach and everything. That was just recently and everything else. So I don't remember the numbers. We did an article when it first came out, but I think when they first released it, it was like a handful. I want to say like 10 to 20 or something like that was when it first got released. We saw appear.
But some of the sprays were really fun though. Look at it now, but yeah, there has so much potential, seriously. And if they could be a little bit more fair, or like at least more considerate in the cut and factoring in the expenses and everything, because obviously they did this for the teams, right? It's a supporters club,
Well, that's what they say.
Did they know?
Well, yeah, so they should, if they learn this from Overwatch League, or
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other teams, other games that also like had similar ideas, right?
Just Valve doing Valve things.
Pretty much exactly that.
We should do another podcast where we just rant about Valve for like the whole
Hey,
hour.
isn't that
Yeah,
every podcast?
It's pretty much every
Somehow
podcast.
we're gonna talk about WoW.
We should just clip everything together and just make it into
Like a special
Valve
compilation,
rant.
right?
A Valve rant compilation. Oh, that would be good.
So what you mean is it's the Christie show.
Yes.
I'm sure Div will be more than happy to join you.
No, I mean, if we take the clips from previously, they'll all end up just...
It's just all Christie's sound bites.
Yeah, okay. Before we
I'm
wrap
going to
things
crowdfund
up,
something on this.
Yeah, we should. We could try. Crowdfund like for Christie's rant, like 2 hours long, or WoW rant, or something along that line. Yeah. Okay, but before we wrap things up,
before you know it, there's going to be some kind of campaign fund started.
Yeah, okay. Now, one last question to just sum things up.
Yes.
Personally, do you think crowdfunding, or like using whatever platforms there is out there, is an ideal solution for teams that need help, or not? Or should they go to the traditional route of like securing sponsors, or like be under a banner, blah blah blah? There are other ways, of course, including robbing a bank. But yeah.
No, I think that there is a whole nother can of worms in doing this, because if a team is in that desperate need, if a team is requiring crowdfunding in order to be able to kind of meet their basic needs to compete at the highest level, we have an issue with our ecosystem and our system in general here, and that's another can of worms. Like, whether they should be or shouldn't be allowed to crowdfund, whether fans give or don't give in their opinions on it, that's a different ballgame. But when we say that they need it, or that we're seeing it, to me, that's such a red flag for so many other problems, that this is even a topic of conversation. Agree with them or don't agree with them, put your money in, don't put your money in. There's a system issue that needs to be fixed if they're resorting to this. And how fair is it that on a competitive level that a team has to resort to this when there's other teams out there that are, got $10 million just in addition to their normal, functioning and sponsorships and everything else out there and everything. Like, there's a systems issue here that needs to be addressed a lot more. no matter what your opinion is on if you agree or don't agree that it could be or should be done. That's an entirely thing. On the second note of saying removing that and that aside, well, then, I mean, that's everybody's personal preference, right? Like, if I really believe in their vision or in their mission or what they stand for, or if I'm getting something out of it or not getting something out of it, or if I kind of want to see more content and growth, then that'll be a personal choice or something. And it's great that we have options and availability both as fans and as teams. But I'm much more concerned about the fact that this is even a topic to discuss for a team to be able to function, to survive, to compete and everything. And that's, I mean, sure, even Team Secret can say, hey, tomorrow we want to start a crowdfunding thing. And then whether I agree with them or not, that's not really relevant. But when a team is saying we need it because we can't survive, that's an entirely different ballgame there.
I think that just adds to a deeper issue from the developer side as well, right? Like, if you can't properly take care of your teams, the people who are playing your game and participating in tournaments that you are organizing, then isn't that a huge red flag as well? Like, it's like looking at it from like a sports perspective. If, let's say, a football team cannot compete anymore, like if, let's say, they're going bankrupt, like what will happen is probably they will have to sell the club to another owner, that sort of thing, right? But they will still get funding and they will still get help from like the relevant leagues and whatnot to, like,
the
pitch in.
association or even
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like in esports, I feel like if a team dies, it just dies.
So it's like, whose responsibility is it to make sure that the ecosystem is in place for it? Is it the community or is it the game developer or
exactly, like, does
sure.
Valve
or
really
is it the
care about the team?
organizations?
Or
Like,
maybe
I
not
think
just WoW, but like
Maybe they just care about their game.
Yeah,
game dev, right?
yeah,
Like,
probably just care about the game and not too much about the people who are competing in it. Like,
But I mean, that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense anyway, though, because that's what's going to drive your lifespan of the game or popularity of the game and everything else too. So it's a very short-sighted way to look at it if that's how they looked at it. Like, well, we only care about our game. We only care about the game itself. It's a kind of a short. But do they have a responsibility is the question. You're right. Like, who's responsible for ensuring that?
That is
it's their responsibility to grow the scene, but is it their responsibility to save every team? That one is subjective.
Yeah. I think, like Will said, in esports, if a team dies, they die. There's like, it's not like there's a bailout or anything like that. So crowdfunding could seem like a small bailout for a short time, but is a team dying just dying? You're not really saving it by putting money into it, unless they go on to win TI. Then
remember Forward Gaming,
Forward Gaming,
Wings Gaming,
Wings
Gaming,
and there's no more.
And they're gone. So at the end of the day, it could save them for a short time, whatever happens, and then.
But it was Forward Gaming. Remember, Forward Gaming let go of their team right before TI. They were qualified for TI. They let go of their team right before TI. They couldn't even sustain it until then. What would be the difference had they had an option of a bailout, or if they looked at crowdfunding in order to save that at that time and everything, as an option and as, some kind of campaign, some kind of crowdfunding at that time to get to TI, at least to hold on until at least TI before they dropped the team or something,
before they dropped it. Yeah.
Should Valve have stepped in to make sure? And then therefore it's the same as Undying. Should Valve be stepping in to make sure that the team can actually get to there?
In that situation, I would say that it's really up to Valve, of course. But I mean, from a lot of standpoint, it makes sense for them to, even if they don't chip in the money or what, right? It's kind of part of their jurisdiction to make sure that they reach TI.
Yeah.
Or like it could be it could fall under
$40 million prize pool.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is only 25% of the money that was raised from those battle passes. That's hundreds of millions, billions, trillions, gazillions, dollars, though, that Yes, it's a business. Yes, they have to make money. I mean, I remember seeing that all over Reddit at the time and everything else. Yes, nobody is saying that. But really, 20K you can't chip in, to make sure that a team gets to boot camp, or $500,000 to make sure every team is equal and has a coach and a boot camp before TI for 2 weeks and set them up or something. I mean, I'm just throwing out the number 500K, but to make sure, like, okay, you're coming to our event 2 weeks before, every team gets to boot camp at this place with this equipment, bring on their coach for it, get their vaccines, their tests, and we pay for it and everything to get there, their plane flights, because, maybe PGL or whoever is only paying for it if you're going to the event, whatever the situation is. Yes, you're a business, you're making money, but I think you can, it would be like me reaching in my pocket and taking out $5 versus, for what I have in my pocket, what they would have to do to take out to do that with all the money they made from that year's compendium, when we have a $40 million prize pool, which was only 25% of the total in sales.
Yeah.
And all
they don't tell me that they needed all that money to be able to create that battle pass.
For expensive designers, yeah.
Maintain the Dota 2 servers. That's why they're so good.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
But I mean, all that you mentioned technically
the
also
one
opened up
in
a lot of the
Middle
can of worms,
East,
right?
and in South Africa, and
yes.
Yeah. like was it entirely WoW's responsibility, or technically should PGL or the organizer take a bit of the blame as well in making sure that everybody gets the kind of boot camp, that kind of requirement, that kind of facilities that they need? Because from what I know, like some of the past tournaments, it's actually under the budgeting from the organizers. Yeah.
Right. And in that case, we already know how much of a loss many of the organizers are already taking to be able to do the LANs. But the ones that are Valve sponsored specifically, if it's a Valve sponsored event, TI, the majors, then why not Valve stepping in, or Valve giving a higher budget for specifically that reason, which again goes back to it being them, but it's at least a higher budget towards that.
Well, think about it. If they did everything by the book, everybody's happy, we wouldn't have this topic today.
True.
Yeah.
What would I do with my life?
You're not wrong.
What
we
would
can't
we
even
do?
rant about WoW. WoW is just
If Valve did everything right, what would we do?
If Valve did their job, we'd be
would
out
I
of
still
hours.
would I still love Dota as much as I do if WoW is good? Wow, that's a
What is that?
whole new topic. Next week.
This is kind of Dr.
like an
K
alternate universe.
type
Alternate
of.
universe. Yeah, imagine.
Yeah.
We'll
If WoW
invite
is
Dr.
good,
K
yeah.
for next session so he can talk to us about
Perfect.
our abusive relationship with Valve and our need to cling to it every day.
That's gonna be so interesting. Okay, with that said, I think we are done for today. Thank you all for doing this. For talking about crowdfunding. I think honestly, initially I thought it's gonna be a very serious, and in a way boring topic, but I think it ended up we all have fun and we address a lot of important issues as well. So for those of you who are listening or watching us, if you like our show, please follow us, please subscribe, please leave down a comment. You can even reach out to us on editorial@GosuGamers.net.
And you can donate.
Yes.
No, I'm
Yes,
kidding.
we will add a link here that you can donate to us
Here's my
getting more
PayPal.
merch.
Except Venmo
GosuGamers.
as well.
And yes, if you want any sort of merchandise, that you have any sort of ideas that you want to see from GosuGamers, in fact, we are working on something. But yeah, if you want to know more, please follow us. Yeah, stay tuned. There will be more things as well. And for all you know, we may have a stretch goal soon. Yeah. And with that, thank you everybody, and see you guys next time.